Absolutely. Well, I think the Recovery Act not only has provided the funding for things like the neighborhood stabilization program, but in our department we have several other programs that are going to benefit from the Recovery Act. Right now we have funding that's coming in that will allow us to do more home ownership. We have funding that's coming in that's going to allow us to help the small towns and the businesses under our community development block grant. We have funding coming in that's going to help folks really who are working to prevent homelessness from occurring. We know that a lot of folks who are going to be impacted by this foreclosure aren't going to be able to be saved. Some of those tactics that were used to put people in homes put them in way over their head, and we know that in that instance you can't sustain that. So then we have to have a plan to help people from becoming homeless. So we're getting a lot of funding from the federal government that under the Recovery Act that's going to allow us to work on that as an issue to prevent people from becoming homeless.
That's very important. Not only does that stop somebody from being homeless, somebody who becomes homeless often needs even more assistance to get back to the point.
Absolutely.
So it's important to keep people, and I know there's a lot of increased funding for weatherization coming down.
Weatherization
really
is going to have
folks.
a lot of, and see,
Yeah.
and I think what we all understand as we hear that a lot of money is coming from the federal government across the board, and of course the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development has programs that are going to benefit from that. But I think one of the things that we are also hearing is that there needs to be a wide-ranging approach to putting these programs into effect. Not just let a program, homeless program, stand on its own, weatherization stand on its own. It's like now we're challenged to coordinate and collaborate in order to do things like help the job creation. Weatherization, for instance, is getting so much additional funding that we're looking at not only how we can get homes weatherized, but how in the process we create jobs, create skills, and create an infrastructure that can then go on and move further as we talk about the green economy, for instance, as we move toward that type of activity. Folks in the weatherization arena can start building the skills that they can then transfer
to the green,
over to the green economy.
It's long term as well as short term.
It's long term and short term.
Yeah. And I know that, and making sure that those public dollars are spent efficiently and correctly is a great responsibility.
Absolutely. We have a very serious mandate to be transparent and to be accountable with the funding that we're getting. I don't think that Marylanders or Americans in general want to see money that's being provided to stimulate us, to help us recover as a state and as a country being squandered. And I think we all hear that, and we've done a lot up to this point to determine how to account. I think if you look at Governor O'Malley's website, you're going to see a lot of reporting. You'll be able to look at all of the agencies, not just the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, but our information will be up there as well in terms of how we've spent this money and how it's benefited the citizens of Maryland. So accountability and transparency is at the top of the list, and not just the responsibility that we have for getting this money out, helping folks, getting things done with it, but to be accountable, to show folks that we're doing the right thing with the money in order to help the economy recover and help strengthen Maryland and the folks in Maryland.
Well, folks, thank you, Reggie. Folks should be very confident that as long as we have good public servants like you who've had experience in these different areas, you've been a banker, you've been in the nonprofit area, you've been in the government area, you have a lot of experience, and you know how to spot the problems.
Well, and I have my strengths, I guess, but I think it's the leadership that we're getting from Governor O'Malley. It just, I've been through a couple of administrations. I think that the leadership that we're getting from Governor O'Malley and from the president, and how he's taken the cues from the president, and it's been able to flow down through folks at my level to folks answering the phone. We all are understanding what we have to do in order to recover as a country and as a state. So, Secretary Skinner and the executive staff at the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development getting their cue from the governor, and he's getting his cue from the president. I think that's the key, that we're all sort of listening and hearing and know where we need to go. And I think leadership plays a strong role.
That's for certain. That's for certain. Not only in getting things done, but making sure they get done correctly.
Absolutely.
And that link to the future.
Absolutely.
Not just staying
Not
on
just for
staying
now,
on the present.
right? But
That's
to have
right.
something that's going to be sustainable. To have a plan that
right.
that addresses the problems you have in front of you, but recognize that as you move forward, you have to sustain the gains that you get as you address the current issues.
Absolutely. Could you give us that contact information one more time, please?
Now, the Maryland Hope Hotline for folks that are having problems with their mortgages, at 1-877-462-7555, the Maryland Hope Hotline. And, of course, our website, www.mdhousing.org. So Maryland Hope Hotline, 1-877-462-7555. 1-877-462-7555,
Right.
and the website for the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, www.mdhousing.org.
And I guess they can always just call the main DHCD
Yeah,
number.
the main number, the local number, 410-514-7000,
Right.
and that'll get you to any department that you're interested in talking to at the department.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is a time of challenge and also a time of opportunity. I guess that those are stereotypes. I mean, those are cliches if there ever were cliches, but they're really true right now.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think one of the things that we hear as government workers working in the state, working with the programs, is that we need to do a lot more. I had a staff meeting the other day, and I was telling my staff that if you, a quote, I can't remember the gentleman. He's a inspirational, motivational type speaker, and he had a quote about it, and it basically says, if you're only doing what you know you can do, you're not doing enough.
Amen.
So.
Yeah,
That's how we have to operate. If you're only doing what you know you can do, you're not doing enough. And I think we've taken that internally, and we understand that it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity to come out on the other end stronger as Marylanders.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something for our viewers to think about.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Thank you. For Neighborhood Beat, that's all we have time for today. I want to thank our guest, Mr. Reggie Stanfield, who's Director of Community Programs for the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Thank you, Reggie.
You're welcome.
Keep up your good work for all of us. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Let's try to be a good neighbor out there in all of our neighborhoods, and we'll see you next time.